So the first thing people tell you when you ask them, how to get better at something is you should probably watch people who are better than you at that very thing, examine them, compare them to yourself, and kind of get an idea of where you stand, something that you do well, not so well, and just have an easy perspective on how to do things, quote unquote, the right way. What a lot of people don't see, especially in like arts and crafts, is that you should also watch yourself, evaluate yourself, and have an outside perspective on your process. It is very common in sports to do that, and it brings a lot of value because it's very easy to get lost in the sauce when you paint, kind of get distracted by one thing or the other. But when you watch it from an outside perspective, as we do right now, it's a bit easier. So today we're going to watch my process and really, not really get into depth, but kind of evaluate the overall process, the macro perspective. The pieces from Sinjin, I hope I pronounced that correctly, great artist. And the idea for me, I didn't copy one-to-one. I wanted to really work on the vibrancy of colors in comparison to the values. So, as you've seen, very quick line art, try to get a decent likeness, I guess, and instantly fill in some values. Now, I started off with airbrushing it over to get an idea of how the values work, and from there on, I figured, okay, what to do now. I'm going to refine it a bit, because in general, I find myself having a bit of an easier time when I already have my values and some details in there. Not every single detail, but enough to understand where to go with it. Now, very quick, and I want to make an entire video about that one. Liquify is completely just is ridiculous how useful that thing is, and I encourage everyone to use it. But I'm gonna talk about that one in a different one. So back to it. I didn't really care about the texture. Didn't really mind that some things are off. The hand looks a bit janky, let's be real, but the face and especially the transition from the face to the cloth was very important for me. And how it's done in this piece is super cool because from a compositional standpoint, there is like the hair on front of her, so closer to us, is super dark. But I figured, I can get some depth in there. And it's also like that in the piece, but I kind of wanted to exaggerate it a bit more. Is that, well, the back hair, or you know what I mean, not the back hair, Jesus, but the hair in the back can be really downgraded when it comes to values, so they get a much more dynamic sense of the perspective that's going on. Very quickly, okay, made an overlay layer. Everything pretty standard, threw in some colors, and this is where I usually start to render things. Why I like to just completely either put in different tones when it comes to color, again tweak it like I did. But in general, the big part of the painting is more or less set and done, and I want to now get an idea and kind of express the different values that I want to throw in there. So especially the red below the eyes should really pop, and you can only do that when you set contrast below it. So those are the kind of the parts that I feel like are very important that I usually don't do, and this was something that I really wanted to make a point that I have a very strong sense of when to do it, if that makes sense. Because in studies you can really focus on a lot of, or a few very important things, and kind of don't really care about the others. Here, for example, the hand anatomy isn't right, some things don't really work out, but that doesn't matter. I had an idea in a way that if I can execute it, then I focus all intention in the face or in the vibrancy, as I said, and try to get that across. If I get that, if that's the idea, then we're good. Now back to the process, because I get a little bit off track again. Liquify. I only started using that for a couple of months now, and it's absolutely ridiculous. It's such a pleasant thing to do when you halfway through realize that something isn't quite right, and you can tweak it and you can kind of adjust it in a way that you seem is a bit better. Alright, so as we get to the rendering stage, we're going to speed it up a bit, because here it's really the pleasant part. Here is where you throw in a couple of darks that really pop out, and again below the eye throw in a bit of vibrant colors and really push the different aspects of it. So that was the idea, at least. And in hindsight, what I think I would do better is I really want to get color involved as early as possible. If there's a way, I feel like it's a bit easier to have a good color scheme the earlier you put it in, if that makes sense. Because there's a great video from Marco Bucci about it, is that working in black and white kind of limits you if you translate to color later on. So that was the main idea. Well, I hope you took something from it. That's the entire study. I hope you find a way to kind of evaluate your own stuff, because we're ourselves, we're the harshest critics, but we're also the best one, because nobody knows ourselves like we do, and that should be used. Well, anyways, not before I go on for too long, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.